Hey everyone, it's Katie, and this is the collage portion of the second lesson. We're going to start by taking our carbon paper, placing it on top of our 6 by 8 inch canvas, and lining up the traceable right on top of both, making sure things are lined up properly, and then so that you can begin to trace the image onto the canvas. And then I would add the tick marks along the edge of the canvas. These act as a type of grid for you to refer to help you with the placement of things. And then once the image is transferred to the canvas, you're going to start with the first piece of collage, piece number 1. And that is going to be for her jacket. If it's a pattern piece, decide which way you want the pattern to go. And once you've made your decisions, shape the piece following the lines of the drawing. This paper is so easy to tear. Again, it's old wallpaper, and I prefer to tear this kind of paper because you can practically tear a straight line as opposed to using the scissors. If you have heavier paper, you may want to use some scissors, but this piece is ended up to be pretty jagged and ragged looking, and I like that effect. So I'm pretty happy with it being torn. You just may want to tear your piece as well. And then of course, once that's the way you want it, put some glue on the back and put it in place. And you can see I wasn't quite happy where it was, so I pulled it back up, put it down exactly where I wanted it, and I'm happy with it now. And now on to collage piece number 2, which is the shirt. And here I'm gonna measure it. I'm using the image as reference, and it appears to be probably about 1.5 by 1.5, and so I'm just gonna cut a piece that is about that size and pretty much the shape of the shirt. Now I'm measuring for the exact placement of the piece because I've kind of lost the drawing underneath that first piece of collage paper. So I've again marked on the canvas exactly where I want to place this piece. It's important to get the glue completely covering the back of the piece all the way to the edges, and then when you place it, just make sure it's placed smoothly. Wipe up any glue that may have seeped out over the edges. You want to keep your gluing process as neat as possible, just to ensure that it'll be a nice finished piece if you really pay attention to how well these pieces are being glued down. Obviously now we're on to the third collage piece. Again, it was a pattern piece, and I had to decide which way I wanted the pattern to run. I've obviously decided for it to go vertical. Finding the line, this is going to be her hair, that ponytail type of piece of hair. Finding the line of the drawing underneath the piece of paper using the folding method. And then I will what am I going to do? I'm going to tear along my fold using some scissors too. Just changing it up, which is nice variation. Finding where her earlobe hits the piece of paper, marking that, and cutting that so that that piece will fall directly under her ear and up against her cheek. So this third piece is going to go from underneath her ear all the way down to that lower left corner and along the edge. And now collage piece number 4, it's going to be the collar of her shirt. So I'm going to do the right side of her collar, which is just a simple triangle. I'll get that cut out. And this one, I'm just going to use the scissors because it makes for a nice clean edge, and I kind of want that effect here. And then I'm going to use the same method for the other side of her collar, looking for the drawing underneath and shaping it as best you can to the shape of the image. So I have the image right next to me so I can look at that at the same time. So I'm kind of drawing the same shape on the collage piece, and then I will just cut it out. So I guess we are up to collage piece number 5. Of course, it's going to be in 2 pieces. One for the left side of her head, and then one just I wanted to use for the background. So here I'm not exactly sure how I want to resolve these last two pieces of paper. So I'm bringing in the last piece to see how it is working with the piece that's underneath it. Yeah, obviously I'm checking the pattern, the shape, just to see how I want those last two pieces to play out with each other. And then once that is all done, we are going to put on the clear gesso just with a brush and make sure that all the paper is covered completely. You don't need to cover the canvas. I prefer the gesso not to get on the canvas. And then once the gesso dries, you can go over it with a light sandpaper to cut down the grit, because this particular gesso has a little bit of a tooth to it. So I give it a light sanding. I rather it not have that tooth to it when I paint. So that was fun, and on to the next fun part, which is the painting part.